Talk about the bands he was in early on. Quite a few bands, but specifically, there's the first band he's in because there's a connection to the Counting Crows breakthrough song, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, Model Society was his very first band, and Adam has always been a band guy. He talks about he didn't want to be a solo artist, even though he writes 100% of the lyrics and about 95% of the music for Counting Crows. He's very much a band guy. He wants to be in a band. So that first band, Model Society, where he kind of learned what it was like to be in a band, featured a lot of different musicians, one of whom was Marty Jones, who is the Mr. Jones of the Mr. Jones song. And that song is very much a very straightforward narrative of a night that he and Marty Jones had out on the town at a flamenco show that was Marty Jones's father is a famous flamenco musician. So they had just seen that show, and he kind of describes what happens in that song. But yeah, Marty Jones, interestingly, shows up in several of Adam's earlier bands and somehow doesn't make it to Counting Crows, even though I think he played on the earliest demos. But yeah, it's too bad. Somehow Marty Jones got left aside. But I think they're still good friends.
The lineup on August and Everything After is Adam Duritz on vocals, piano, and harmonica, David Bryson on guitars, Charlie Gillingham on keyboards, Matt Malley on bass, and Steve Bowman on drums. Although he's not on Mr. Jones, right?
He's not on Mr. Jones, which I did not realize until I wrote the book.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
And then also David Immergluck played a lot of stuff on that first album. He's credited, but this just before Dan Vickery joined the band, David Immergluck quit the band after the album was recorded, went and did his own thing. He came back to the band later, but that's when Dan Vickery joined. So Dan Vickery didn't play on the first album. He wasn't in the band at all, but he's in the videos and he played on the tour and he's been in the band. He's still in the band today.
And let's talk about Mr. Jones, because that was not intended to be the first single. You write that Mr. Jones, the band's breakthrough single, number 5 on Billboard's Hot 100 airplay charts, was the most difficult song to capture. Can you talk about that and how it was initially not intended to be the first single?
Well, one of the things that they did was they sort of test marketed some of the songs. Several of the songs from August and Everything After got radio play, and the record company really liked A Murder of One. I think it's the last song on the album. It has, as Adam has described it, the Jesus Jones right here, right now drum beat. Then the radio loved it. The record company loved it, and they said, "This is the song." Don't that all your life.
Yep.
That was going to be the single, and that was getting some airplay. And the record company said, "This is going to be the one. It's got the funky beat, and it's going to put you over." Adam thought. He was more in favor of something like Mr. Jones. He thought that was the perfect introduction to the world. And everybody seemed to think that Rain King was going to be the song on the album. The big song on the album was going to be Rain King. Adam thought so. The record company thought so. They were sort of saving that one to be the big breakout hit. Not thinking the record company didn't have a ton of faith in Mr. Jones. And ultimately, they couldn't come to a decision. And there was no single that was released when August first came out. Geffen just refused to release a single and just put the album out. And it was actually several months. That's when that Mr. Jones came out on CMJ. It was months later. They finally released it to college radio. They finally did a video. It finally started to get some airplay and blow up. What's interesting about the recording of it, and the part I really didn't know this, is that their drummer couldn't seem to find the beat. He said, I just, couldn't find it. I couldn't feel it. They tried a number of takes, did it over and over again. It just didn't click. And finally, the producer, T-Bone Burnett, came to him and said, "Okay, let's try it again." And finally, Steve Bowman just said, "No, I wouldn't know what to do. I've tried everything. You're not satisfied with what I'm doing, and I'm just kind of giving up." And so T-Bone Burnett immediately just replaced him with a studio drummer who came in and did it in like 2 takes, and that became the take. What's interesting is that when the song blew up, this certainly caused a rift between Steve Bowman and the rest of the group, and ultimately was sowed the seeds for his departure. He left, or let's say departed, after that first album.